Hello, this is Jeff from Studio 41 Music. That's right, we are looking at Metallica. Now, originally when this channel was very first created, it was supposed to be almost like a melting pot of different subjects and by each of the four of us. In the end, it's turned into a gaming channel, but just for this one time, and I'll pretty much be obligated to do a follow-up to that album, we're going to be taking a look at Metallica and their entire discography from beginning to Death Magnetic and all that's in between. But we are now going to take a look at from the very beginning, kill them all, and we're going to go chronological order. And I'm not going to give a proper review for Garage Inc., even though I will say it is worth at least one listen, and this is just, it's a cover album. I'm not taking a look at S&M, it's just an orchestra metal mix-up of a bunch of old material. And I'm not taking a look at Lulu. We don't talk about Lulu. So, let's get started with Kill 'Em All. My buddy's here to review Kill 'Em All with me, but Kill 'Em All is Metallica's first album all the way back in 1983. And as everybody knows, Dave Mustaine was originally in the band, but got booted out. I heard it was supposedly after kicking James Hetfield's dog, but I haven't been able to find too much more information about that. But he didn't get along with like anybody in the band except for maybe Cliff Burton, since he was the reason Cliff even got in the band to begin with. But after kicking James Hetfield's dog, supposedly, he got booted. Kirk Hammett got brought in. He had to learn the entire set list on the flight to New York. And after he joined the band, the big lineup was set for Metallica's rise into freaking stardom. And it is said, though, that Dave Mustaine absolutely hates Kirk Hammett because supposedly he believes Kirk Hammett stole his music for a lot of the Kill 'Em All stuff. But Dave Mustaine actually got four writing credits on the album. So, I don't know why he thinks Kirk Hammett stole his music. He got writing credits for this album, and he even got one on Ride the Lightning. But drama aside, this album freaking rules. Now, I do consider it to be the lesser of the first four Metallica albums, but it's still a great record that you got to listen to at least once. My personal favorite tracks on the album gotta be Whiplash and Seek and Destroy. I'm not a huge fan of Jump in the Fire and Motor Breath. I know those two songs have a huge following, but they've never really done a whole lot for me. But I still really like this album and definitely recommend it. What a freaking record Ride the Lightning is. It came out just 1 year after Kill 'Em All came out, and we're already talking about possibly the best record Metallica has ever produced. Cliff Burton really helped pull this album together because apparently he taught the other three real music theory. So Metallica really experimented a bit more with Ride the Lightning, but at the same time evolved their sound just to new freaking heights with the likes of Fight Fire with Fire or Ride the Lightning or Creeping Death. This album, it doesn't have a bad song. I literally love everything on it. Except for maybe Escape. Apparently that song was supposedly pushed by the record company to make something more commercial. But again, I'm finding some conflicting reports about it. But apparently James Hetfield hates this song. It's only been performed once live, ever. So that's pretty hilarious, actually. But this record is, God, it is so freaking amazing. It's so amazing, I own it twice. I own originals, not really probably a reprint, not original, CD release, and then I got the remaster that came out earlier this year. But it is one of my favorite Metallica albums of all time. My favorite track would have to be, I would say From the Bell Tolls, but I made that my ringtone, so every time I hear it now, I kind of like look like, oh, someone calling me, even though I actually took it off like a few months ago, so I didn't end up hating the song. But with that being said, my favorite probably is Creeping Death. Least favorite, I don't really have one. Escape would be the closest, but I don't even hate that song or dislike it really at all. Just, you've got to freaking listen to this album. Just get it in your ears. It is amazing. What's there to say? I'm wearing the shirt for a reason. This freaking album, it is a beast. Many consider it to be one of the greatest heavy metal or thrash records of all time. With that being said, I'm not going to spend too much time on it because everybody knows how amazing it is. If you don't like this album, I don't know what to say. I've never heard anybody say they don't like this album. It is literally the only album, maybe besides Ride the Lightning, of heavy metal albums where there's like no detractors. And there's no detractors for a reason. It's amazing. Just simply amazing. My favorite track, probably the deep cut of Disposable Heroes. It's heavy metal freaking perfection. Maybe even speed metal perfection. It's just awesome. There's not a single bad song on this album. I can't pick a bad track at all. If you don't own it, you're doing something wrong. It's amazing. So let's move on. So in Justice for All, everybody and their mother knows that Cliff Burton's untimely death came during the European leg of the Master of Puppets tour, and Metallica was out of a bass player. Eventually they would settle on Jason Newsted, and just 2 years after Master of Puppets came out in 1988, out popped Injustice for All. And to turn around and drop this album just 2 years after the death of who was basically the big driving force creatively for this band by the time Master of Puppets came out, and Cliff Burton, that is damn impressive. And every song on this album is over 5 minutes long. The shortest ones are just like, I think 5 minutes and 12 seconds. The longest ones being just under 10 minutes. And this is definitely, if you like Metallica and prog mode, you will like this. There are many songs on this album that have very long instrumental pieces. And they really I even saw when I was looking up this album, they really wanted to show what they could do musically. And as a result, songs on this album wind back and forth, stop, fast, slow. It is all there. And they even said, if we can get 6 riffs into this song, let's go for 8. And damn, did they freaking do that. Unfortunately, we have 3/4 of a band. Jason Newsted's bass got turned down to oblivion by Lars, who is an absolute asshole for doing so. You basically sabotaged yourself, Lars. As a result, this album sounds incredibly flat due to being basically no bass on it. Yeah, Lars tries his best, but drums can only do so much. And as a result, I consider this to be, well, lesser of an album than Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets. I think it's still better than Kill 'Em All, but to me anyway, just not nearly as good as Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning due to there being no bass and how flat the production sounds. My favorite song would probably have to be Frayed Ends of Sanity. 1 is definitely up there as well. I'm pretty sure everybody loves that song, but Frayed Ends of Sanity is freaking, that song rules. That's another one that's like barely ever been played in concert too. I don't know why Metallica doesn't like playing some of their best songs in concert, but oh well. This is still a very good album, just not as good as the ones that came before it. But I think everybody knows what's coming up next. I remain to this day thoroughly convinced that if you went to a Metallica concert and asked 1,000 people what they thought of the Black Album. They would say, I love it, but. Or they would say Zong is best album of all time, Zong. But I'm pretty much of the first answer in that I do really like this album, but this is where things began to turn. Depending on who you ask, again, they might love it or they might hate it. But Metallica, the Black Album, yeah, it's commercial, more commercial, but in the end, you can't say it's still thoroughly Metallica. It still sounds like Metallica. Everybody and their mother loves Enter Sandman, Sad But True, Wherever I May Roam. But at the same time, because everybody knows what came next. But this album, it sold 16 million copies and is still, I believe, charting to this very day. The ensuing world tour was like, what, 3-4 years long? Like one of the longest world tours ever. 16 million sales. Back when charts actually mattered, you did something right. I mean, if you hate this album, knowing that it sold that much, it did something right. And 16 million sales is insane. Again, but this is the Black Album, and favorite song, I would say Enter Sandman. Yeah, I'm not pulling any punches there. It's a masterpiece. Least favorite, The Unforgiven, and Nothing Else Matters. I hate that song. As a result, yeah, I really like the Black Album, but I would say it's probably for me on a little bit higher than like Injustice for All. But again, it ain't near Ride the Lightning or Master of Puppets. Yeah, really good album, but it is the beginnings of, well, we know what came next. No. Nope. I refuse to change my desktop background for these two albums. No, I wasted enough time trying to frickin' do the Injustice for All one. But Load and Reload. Oh boy. First, I'm hitting load first. I'm breaking these up a little bit, since even though they were intended as a double album. But these are the albums that most people hate, and with good reason. But for me, I don't hate them. Are they disappointments? Yes. I don't hate them. I mean, Bleeding Me off Load is a damn near masterpiece, if we're going to be perfectly honest. I freaking love that song. Then we've got the likes of King Nothing. Again, really good song. Then you have stuff like Poor Twisted Me, The Cure. Even, I'm not a big fan of Until It Sleeps either, and I know that's one of the few songs a lot of people like. But these two albums combined have like 6-7 really good songs. And then lots of crap. It's Hero of the Day. I know that's another one off Load I do like. But it's just, you got like 3 or 4 good songs and then just crap on Load. And same goes for, well, Reload. Reload is, in the end, probably even worse than Load, if we're going to be perfectly honest with ourselves. It's just, that's how, I don't know what they're going for here. I get it, they're going for more of a blues rocky sound, but it just, for the most part, does not work for me, and it doesn't work for a lot of other people. It's You want to know what the real issue is here? The classic Metallica logo is not even on these freaking albums. I refuse to change my desktop background to a Load or Reload inspired desktop background for this. But Reload has Fuel, and then it has The Memory Remains, paragons of the Metallica catalog. Amazing songs. I freaking love them. And then you've got The Unforgiven 2. Why? Why did they make a sequel to one of the weakest songs off the Black Album? And this is just a lousy ripoff, nonetheless. And they literally plagiarized themselves for the most part with The Unforgiven 2. That song sucks, and then they made another one, which is even worse. But these two albums, I do own them. I have Reloads right over there. I'm not sure where Load is, but for some reason, like half of that album actually works. But it's around here somewhere. But I own them, but not too sure if I'm too proud that I own them. They're mediocre at best. And at worst, something you would never really want to listen to ever again. Speaking of which. There, I changed my background to something inspired by Saint Anger. This album has been beaten, bashed, destroyed beyond belief. How it has fans, I have no idea. If you like Saint Anger, please tell me why in the comments, because you're obviously seeing something I don't or outright refuse to see. This album is a pile. There is no other way to put it. It is the only Metallica album I do not own, and I refuse to own it. It is just outright horrendous.
He's cute. Can we keep him? Please, can we keep him, please?
The drums on this album they are something else, man. It's literally pots and pans. Like, that's literally what they sound like. You want to know what the tagline, if you would, for this album is? Bob Rock, the producer, outright said there wasn't enough time to get 100% out of James. That is the epitome of, well, it's something. It is indeed something. It is the worst Metallica has ever made. It is the worst they have to offer. It makes Load and Reload look like Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets. This album, I basically refuse to acknowledge its existence. I regularly conspire to just buy the album and then burn it. It is just outright terrible in every way possible. Even Jason Newsted left. Jason Newsted left the band before Saint Anger was made. He had nothing to do with it. He didn't want any part of it. That is good on you, Jason, because he'd been basically continuously hazed for about 10 years, so he basically, 13 years. I keep forgetting. He's on Injustice for All, supposedly. He basically threw up both middle fingers and said, screw you guys, and I do not blame him one bit. This album blows. Do not listen to it. Ever. Let's just hope Metallica remembers who they are. Death Magnetic. Welcome back, Metallica. Hey, welcome back, classic Metallica logo. hope you stick around a little bit. But man, talk about the freaking comeback album of comeback albums. This record destroys. I don't care who says it. I don't care about the mediocre production. By that I mean very mediocre production. But this is probably my favorite Metallica album ever. Yeah, I have a Master of Puppets shirt on right now, and I love that album. And I love Ride the Lightning. But something about Death Magnetic is just... It's freaking amazing. And for the longest time, I never actually was sure what it was about this album that I really, really loved. But after doing a little bit of digging, and by that I mean I fell down a Wikipedia rabbit hole about 2 or 3 months ago, I ended up on Metallica's Death Magnetic album, and I was just reading through, you know, what the inspiration was behind the album and whatnot. And then I read something that I never would have guessed in a million years, but it makes perfect sense. And I'm getting shivers down my spine right now just even talking about it. But when they were doing the inspiration, writing the album, Kirk Hammett brought in a picture and he hung it on the wall. It was a picture of a person, and that person was Lane Staley, the former lead singer of Alice in Chains. And I just got goosebumps. I don't know if you can see him, but I just got goosebumps on my arms. I still get them 2 or 3 months. And I read this 2 or 3 months ago. Because my favorite band is Metallica. My second most favorite band of all time is Alice in Chains. And I goddamn worship their first 3 or 4 albums. And Lane Staley is one of my favorite lead singers of all time. And it turns out a majority of this album is directly inspired by Lane Staley, and even I think Kurt Cobain, and maybe a couple other people. But Lane Staley is the big person behind the inspiration for this album. That is freaking haunting. Especially for me, since I'm a humongous fan of both of these bands. And I actually looked through the song listing to see what songs probably were directly inspired by Lane Staley, and I'm guessing that was Just Your Life, The End of the Line, probably Cyanide, definitely not The Unforgiven 3. I don't know why there is a third one of these. It's probably the weakest song on this album. It's so hilarious. All three Unforgiven songs suck. Suicide Redemption, possibly. It's an instrumental, so it's hard to say. And then My Apocalypse is definitely inspired by Lane Staley. It even has Death Magnetic that's where the term comes from. But yeah, it is definitely apparent now. At least half of these songs are probably inspired by Lane Staley and Kurt Cobain. It's haunting, to say the least. And even on the Beyond Magnetic EP, I haven't talked about really any EPs in this at all, but there's even 2 more songs on the Beyond Magnetic EP that are directly inspired. One is Just a Bullet Away. That's probably more Kurt Cobain. He blew his head off. But Rebel of Babylon, they even came out straight out and said that it's directly inspired by Lane Staley. But Death Magnetic, man, I freaking love this album. It is, like I said, my personal favorite Metallica album of all time. My favorite track, All Nightmare Long. It is, God, that song just destroys everything. It is just that ending, the ending guitar piece, it's like an open strum almost. That song, the first time I heard that, I think my freaking head got blown off. and I had to go pick it up and reattach it. That song is amazing. One of the best songs Metallica has ever made. And like I said, worst track is probably the Unforgiven 3. Why there are 3 of those, like I said, I don't fucking know. But that's it. That is my review of every Metallica album that has been made up to today. I have heard about half the songs off of Hardwired. Since they've released so many, I had to dip a little bit and just hear some of them, but I am purposefully not looking up the rest of them. I want to be surprised tomorrow. And I can't freaking wait. Everything I have heard off of Hardwired to Self-Destruct is goddamn amazing. In the end, some of the titles, it's starting to almost sound like Metallica greatest hits. Like, every song, it's going to almost be inspired by a past Metallica song. I'm getting that feeling a little bit, but and then as a result, this album might not do anything over the moon like Death Magnetic, but everything I've heard so far I love, and I will definitely give that a look probably down the line sometime. But thank you for watching, and you might not hear from me for a while. Tomorrow is Pokemon and Metallica.
A few moments later.
So quick follow-up. Holy shit. Fucking mailman got here. I actually heard him get here when I was making this video. And we got the mail, and isn't that some kind of freaking poetic justice? Oh shit, you're not gonna hear from me for about 3 weeks. Pokemon, Metallica, life is fucking beautiful.